Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and in this vid I want to share a bookish goal that I've kind of set for myself for the upcoming year here in 2025. As some of you know, I've shown in a couple videos that I do like take notes and things on a few books now. I got a couple different journals going, mostly on like different philosophy topics and that kind of thing, since I started taking it kind of seriously this year. And I have one nature one kind of going as well. But one, I've been, after like looking through my library and everything, I'm starting a new one, so I haven't put anything in it yet, but the title I've labeled this one is Ancient Greek Intellectual Thought and Culture, which sounds really ridiculous, kind of like when I say it out loud. But I do have like a Plato one. I plan on having like an Aristotle specific one as well. But this one is going to be more like on just kind of like intellectual, like I said, intellectual culture, intellectual history of like ancient Greece and things. I just find it really fascinating. And after kind of going through some of my books in storage, and some of the ones I still had on my shelves and everything, I found like this, like, I kind of just curated a little like collection of books, I guess, that are like either philosophy, like early Greek philosophy, or like kind of tangentially related to like kind of either philosophy or Greek thinking and Greek culture. Probably be better once I just like start like going through them and that kind of thing. So I just thought it'd be kind of a cool, I don't know, thing to kind of go with my philosophy challenge to kind of provide some context and that kind of thing. But let's just go ahead and get started and show some of the ones that talk about. So one of the themes of this pile of books too is I think like half of them I don't know really anything about. I remember salvaging them from a university like library sale kind of thing, sort of indirectly, but I put most of them in like some storage bins in the basement and that kind of thing, because I didn't feel like I was like either like ready to read them, or at the time, you know, I just thought I might read them someday. But I think you know, maybe I was just being super proactive, because I think the time has come like 12 years later or that kind of thing. But anyways, this first one here, we got Freedom in Greek Light. Oh, excuse me, Life and Thought, The History of an Ideal. This is by Max Pollins. And I just feel like, you know, with contemporary times and that kind of thing, I read another book on freedom by Timothy Snyder right here, pretty recently. Very poignant for, like I said, the kind of current day and age. And it kind of got me thinking, you know, what did, you know, the Greeks that like kind of came up with the whole idea of like literal direct democracy, at least in Athens and a couple other city-states. You know, what was their like thoughts on freedom and that kind of thing. But I just wanted to read like a little blurb here. Like, I don't know anything about Max Pollins. I think this is a lot of these are like pretty old. I want to say there's actually a few that I think are just like old. They're just like lectures that were kind of curated into like a book format. This one's 66. I think most of them are like published in either the 50s, 60s, or 70s, just because I think they were kind of cleaning out like some of the older stuff. But it was not the French Revolution that made the idea of freedom a basic factor in Western civilization. It had already played a major part in the philosophy and the political life of ancient Greece, where the basic thoughts and ideals of our culture were first given shape. In clearer and simpler form, the Greeks faced the problems inherent in Western civilization, which beset us so much more bewilderingly and elusively today. And it kind of goes on a little bit. And then at the present time, you know, and we're talking like in the 60s, when the word freedom has acquired so many associations and emotional overtones that the concept can no longer be grasped with clarity and objectivity, it will be rewarding for the non-Hellenist, no less than for the classical scholar, to be conducted by an experienced guide through the thought and history of Greece in pursuit of its origin. There he will see how the idea arose and grew, how it was introduced into politics and translated into historical and social fact, the real and theoretical problems it created, in the response of philosophers and politicians to them. So it just sounded perfect, and this is like what I was trying to explain with like kind of like philosophy tangent in a lot of ways. We got a lot of things dealing with like culture and ideas and thought and freedom, you know, things like that. And I just feel like it'd be kind of cool to curate them and do like kind of a journal just on like the idea. I'm kind of spoiling it a little bit with the idea though of like kind of just like Greek thought. So anyways, that's the first one. I do have some like actual like philosophy ones here, the next two. Like I said, I do have a Plato one already that's actually doing pretty good, like getting filled out. I plan on having a purely Aristotle one, but I wanted like a kind of like to include like the other Greek philosophers. And the pre-Socratics I do have a really soft spot for. They were my favorites in college and that kind of thing. But this is this is my newest addition to the Oxford World Classics like collection library, which I really do enjoy. It's got this one especially is going to be amazing. It's basically so we got the first philosophers, the pre-Socratics, and the sophists, translated by Robin Waterfield. But there's a huge introductory essay, and then each philosopher and thinker that's like introduced also has like a little bit of an essay. There's tons of like translation notes and footnotes and that kind of stuff. But you're dealing with all the pre-Socratics. You know, you got like Thales and Anaximander, Anaximenes. You know, you got like the enigmatic Heraclitus. Empedocles is going to be in there. Parmenides. Diogenes, all the atomists, and then we have a bunch of the sophists too, which I actually don't know too much about besides like just the literal like dialogues that Plato wrote, the ones that I have read. But they go through like most of the sophists as well, and it's pretty much just a collection of all like, you know, all their fragments and all their like kind of testimonies and things like that that have come down to us from a bunch of different sources. So I think it's just going to be really cool to be able to sit down, read through some of them, and like I said, just kind of add that to, I guess, like my collection of notes and that kind of thing. And like I said, I do have a soft spot for the pre-Socratics, but I have an even bigger soft spot for Epicurus, who unfortunately is not part of that because he wasn't like a sophist and he was not a pre-Socratic. But like, for example, like Epicureanism, a very short introduction. This one is by Catherine Wilson. I keep saying, I think I've like added this to a TBR like twice on different occasions, and just for whatever reason never actually like started it. But I do enjoy these quite a bit. I do have a video planned out. Like, for example, I'm actually not 100% sure how many I have. I think I have around 40 or so. I think I've read, not quite half. Actually, I have finished more, but some of them were like audiobooks or ebooks and that kind of thing. But anyways, Epicureanism, like I feel, has been like slandered so bad. Like, it's come down to us in such a weird, like hedonistic kind of like mindset in the current day and age, which is just strange because like the original like Epicureans were almost like the opposite. Their whole shtick was basically, if you don't have a lot of wants and desires, that'll make you more happy effectively, because you're not gonna like be missing out and being like jealous and like sad that you're not like getting all these things or experiencing all these things and that kind of thing. So it was all about being happy by not feeling that you need to want all this stuff. So yeah, I have actually no idea how it kind of got twisted around so badly. I'm sure like this book will kind of touch on it as well. And I've been kind of looking into, there's not that many Epicurean books, unfortunately. I feel like the Stoics or the Broics at this day and age have kind of like just taken over and have a monopoly on you know, the non-Platonian and Aristotelian like philosophy from Greece. So it is a shame, but like I said, I want to add that too into like kind of this notebook, because I feel like that'd be kind of a good one to kind of like think about and that sort of thing. Next up, we have two books by Werner Jaeger, and I had some conversations with a good bookish friend, John David. He has a channel. I think it's actually just his name now. I'm not sure if he still goes by Nicholas of Autrecourt, but I'm going to leave a link to his channel down below. And he thoroughly recommended Jaeger when I had mentioned I had this one, which is Theology of the Early Greek Philosophers. And he was like that. This is apparently a gold mine. So I'm like, you know, might as well add it. I don't know too much about the the topic. Essentially, this one, the author, who is, let's see, Jaeger. But for example, this is like a collection of lectures he did in the 30s for some courses and that kind of thing, or maybe he was traveling around. I can't remember exactly if he was like a sitting professor in the United States at that time. But anyways, he's kind of going through all the different like kind of categories, like for example, like the Milesians, Xenophanes, Heraclitus, and Empedocles, and that kind of thing, and kind of breaking down, I guess, kind of the religious and like theological like undertones of a lot of their philosophy. Just for example, with like the Milesian school, there's a big kind of like thrust towards understanding what is the arche, you know, kind of like what is like the primordial foundation of reality effectively. And I think there probably is like some like religious, like ancient Greek kind of religious undertones to that, and I assume these lectures will explain that a little bit more fully. But like I said, John thoroughly recommended that, and based on his recommendations, I did some more research on Jaeger, and I found there's a trilogy he wrote known as Paideia, which just looks absolutely amazing. So I got the first volume here, The Ideals of Greek Culture. Volume 1 is Archaic Greece, the Mind of Athens. So I'm just going to read paideia. It's like kind of a weird, it's like one of those Greek words where it's hard to like, you know, translate fully into English. There's tons of them like that. But anyways, here we go. Like Werner Jaeger's acclaimed 3-volume work treats paideia, the shaping of Greek character, as the basis for a study of Hellenism as a whole, to explain the interaction between the historical process by which Greek character was formed and the intellectual process by which they constructed their ideal of the human personality. So I just like that whole concept right there, just kind of like, it's sort of like the, you know, just a distillation of what I want this sort of notebook and journal to be. You know, like I said, it's just kind of like the shape, like understanding the shaping of like Greek character, like intellectual culture, and like kind of their ideals and that kind of thing. I don't know, it just sounds really cool. I have flipped through it a little bit and kind of gone through a couple different things. You know, there's like chapters on Homer, there's chapters on like freedom, chapters on justice. I can't remember if there was a chapter on like arete. Can't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, just gonna be tons of classical reference like strewn throughout. So like if you're kind of steeped in like classical like Greco-Roman like history and that kind of thing, it's gonna be fun just kind of going through the references and just kind of like bouncing back and forth. And like I said, I think it's gonna be a real treat to peruse and read through. Next up is one I literally know nothing about, but it was in my storage bin, and this is Greek Skepticism. Let's see, and this is by, who is this by? Charlotte Stow, from 1969 here. And it's all about, there's two kind of schools of Greek skepticism. There is the New Academy, under like a little after some of Plato's successors, if I remember correctly. And then there was a philosopher or thinker named Pyrrho, and he kind of, I think he started basically like making skepticism like pretty mainstream as far as, you know, ancient Greek philosophy is concerned and that kind of thing. But it's all, you know, skepticism, ancient Greek skepticism is kind of about you know, questioning you know, what is you know, what is truth, what is knowledge, and that kind of thing, kind of at like a foundational level. I think it's kind of like one of those really early schools of thought dealing with epistemology in like a very like kind of structured way. Like I said, that's probably about all I could tell you without blowing too much smoke there. So like I said, I feel like that one's pretty good, like tangential to like kind of these books I'm like dealing with and that kind of thing. So I added that to the pile as well. This one I find is going to be, it's a little bit different. I'm not 100% sure if it fits in exactly, but it's Circumference, Eratosthenes and the Ancient Quest to Measure the Globe by Nicholas Nicastro. So Eratosthenes was just really cool. He was the chief librarian at the Library of Alexandria. I want to say in the first century. I can't remember off the top of my head if it's like the 1st or 2nd century CE. But I feel like if there's kind of a lot of, if some of the book is dealing not just with like his like personal scientific calculations, where he actually did basically calculate the circumference of the planet. I think it was within like 2% of the actual value. So that's pretty impressive in my book for 2,000 years ago. But not only dealing with just Greek science, which I actually, if you do have a recommendation for a book on Greek science, let me know down below. I've seen a couple. I don't know exactly which one I'm going to pick up. But if you have any suggestions or you know of any, leave a comment down below, because that would be a great one to kind of add to this pile as well. But I'm hoping there's a lot kind of dealing with like kind of like, I guess like Alexandria's culture as like a city of learning and that kind of thing. Maybe that's kind of what I'm hoping for, and that'll be kind of like added to my journal as well. This is definitely, I think, the newest one out of my pile. I don't think there's any like kind of modernish ones besides this one, but I feel like there is a good chance there'll be some good stuff in there. And I think the one I'm going to start with, I think, is the second smallest one here, and it's the 4 Stages of Greek Thought, which is a series of lectures that John Finley conducted, I want to say in the 60s as well, or maybe the 50s. Looks like the 60s, 65. And John Finley was pretty famous. I think I got a book on There's two. There's John Finley and Moses Finley. And actually, I read this book he did on like kind of a academic work on Thucydides a long time ago. Holy cow, this book is like so beat up. It's not even funny. Actually, you can see the book had a bookmark still like in there. Anyways, he was a pretty prominent classical scholar in like the 50s and 60s, 70s. And like I said, this one's called The Four Stages of Greek Thought. I don't know too much about this one either, other than it's like kind of a series of lectures. I did just kind of go through. We have the heroic mind, the visionary mind, the theoretical mind, and the rational mind. So I think it's going to be kind of interesting. It's not very long. I think it's only like 150 pages or so, since I want to say it was like 6 or 7 lectures. I feel like that's kind of like a good starting point, kind of just like a big kind of like microscopic overview of like, I guess the big threads and themes of Greek thought over about 1,000 years of like kind of their history from the Dark Ages. I assume it's going down to probably about the time of the Macedonian conquest and that kind of thing. So like I said, I feel like that'll be kind of a good opener just to get just like the general gist of like kind of how the Greek ideal sort of changed like over those centuries and that kind of thing. Anyways, if you have any good ideas, like I said, for Greek science or other titles that you think would fit pretty well into this, I don't know, I don't even know what I'd call this little collection that I'm starting to kind of collect here. Like I said, pretty much anything like ancient Greek philosophy that's not directly like Plato or Aristotle fits in there. You know, Greek concepts. So there's probably even like, I bet you there's probably good books on like Greek tragedies and comedies and that kind of thing that would fit in there as well. I don't know. I have like the collection of all the Greek tragedies, but I don't think I actually have any kind of book. I don't even think I've ever read a book just kind of like going over them, I guess. Not like a commentary, but just kind of like an overview of like just like the history and I guess concept of like Greek tragedies and that kind of thing. But that I think definitely would be one that would fit in there pretty well. So like I said, if you have any ideas for what could go in here, leave some comments down below. I'm actually really excited with this one. Like I said, it was just a weird, like kind of on a whim. I kind of like just noticed I had a bunch of these books that didn't quite fit like some of the other ones I wanted to take some notes over, but they kind of they're all kind of related to each other in some way, shape, or form. But anyways, I feel like I rambled on at the end here quite long enough, but let me know what you think, if this is a good idea or not, and whatever you end up reading, whether it's on Greek thought or not, read victoriously.